What if the most dangerous moment in Tupac's life did not come from the streets, the beefs, or the enemies we all know about? What if the real danger was already sitting right next to him? Las Vegas. The lights, the noise, the energy after the Mike Tyson fight. Tupac Shakur rides through the city, larger than life, untouchable in the eyes of the world. But that night, bullets rip through the car. Multiple shots. Chaos. Screams. Confusion. Tupac survives the attack, but barely. 6 days later, the world loses one of the most influential artists of all time. And ever since that night, the same question has echoed across generations. Who really got Tupac killed? For years, people pointed fingers in every direction. Rival rappers, East Coast enemies, street politics. But Snoop Dogg, one of the few people who truly knew Tupac both before and after fame changed everything, tells a very different story. A story that starts long before Las Vegas, before death row, before the paranoia, before the war. Snoop remembers the first time he met Tupac, not as a legend, not as a symbol, but as a hungry artist with something to prove. Their connection was instant, competitive, electric, intense. Two minds pushing each other to go harder, rap sharper, think bigger. That bond was real, and that bond makes what happens next even more disturbing. Because as Tupac rose higher, another figure rose with him. A man with power, money, and a reputation that made entire rooms go silent. A man who knew how to protect you, but also knew how to put you in danger. Snoop watched as Tupac began to change. The music shifted. The energy shifted. The lifestyle shifted. What once felt like art slowly began to feel like war. And here is the part most people skip over. Tupac wanted that image. He wanted to be seen as unstoppable, feared, untouchable. And the man guiding him knew exactly how to feed that desire. Snoop saw it happening in real time, and he felt something was wrong. But by then, the machine was already moving. The streets were watching. The media was watching. And the tension between coasts was reaching a boiling point. Tupac believed he had been betrayed, set up, targeted by people he once trusted. The accusations became public. The music became personal. And suddenly, millions of fans were no longer just listening. They were choosing sides. East versus West was no longer entertainment. It was real. And Snoop, standing in the middle of it all, could feel the pressure building. He knew this was not going to end with a song. He knew someone was going to get hurt, but no one was ready for how fast it would happen. And just when the world thought the story had already reached its darkest chapter, that night in Las Vegas would change everything forever. Before you keep watching, make sure you are still here with me. If this story already feels heavy, it is because we're just getting started. If you want to be part of this conversation, pause for 1 second and leave a comment saying what Tupac's music meant to you. Personal stories matter, and they keep this discussion alive. Now let's continue. After the shooting, while the world watched headlines and police tape on television, Snoop Dogg did not sit back. He moved. Fast. He got in his vehicle and headed straight to Vegas. He needed answers. He needed to see Tupac with his own eyes. What he walked into was not a movie scene. It was raw. Real. Tupac was alive, but badly wounded. Machines. Silence. Tension in the air. And yet, even then, Tupac's spirit was still burning. Still defiant. Still intense. Snoop described sitting with him, talking to him, feeling the weight of everything they had been through together. And this is where things become complicated. Their relationship was not perfect at that time. There were disagreements, distance, pressure from outside forces. But none of that erased the love. None of that erased the history. Watching his friend in that condition shattered something inside Snoop. And then came the aftermath. Tupac dies. The world explodes. Mourning turns into anger. Anger turns into retaliation. The streets do not calm down. They ignite. Los Angeles feels like a powder keg. Shootings increase. Lines are drawn. And loyalty becomes more dangerous than ever. Snoop starts to realize something terrifying. Tupac's death was not the end of the war. It was the beginning of something even darker. And the man many people looked to for leadership was not trying to stop it. He was fueling it. Snoop began to believe that Tupac had been steered toward a path that made violence inevitable. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but by influence. Influence that glorified conflict, power, and fear. As Snoop tried to step away, to focus on music and survival, the consequences followed him. Threats, confrontations, moments where death felt one bad decision away. Leaving death row did not bring peace. It brought a target. Snoop described situations where he barely escaped harm, moments where crowds turned hostile, where loyalty was demanded at gunpoint. And through it all, one thought kept returning. This life was going to kill him if he did not change. His family needed him. His kids needed him. The streets did not care. And here's where the story takes a turn nobody expects. Instead of escalating, instead of striking back, Snoop chose something that goes against everything the environment taught him. He chose restraint, reflection, and eventually, confrontation without violence. Because there was still one man he needed to face. One conversation that had to happen. And when that moment finally came, everything Snoop believed about pride, survival, and forgiveness was put to the ultimate test. If you have stayed with me this far, you already know this is not just a hip-hop story. This is a survival story. And before we reach the final moments, do one last thing. Share this video with someone who still talks about Tupac today. Then come back and comment the word legacy. That tells me you understand what is really at stake here. Now listen closely. Years after the violence, the threats, the fear, Snoop finally comes face to face with the man he believes played a role in putting all of their lives in danger. No crowd, no chaos, just two men in a room. The tension is real. The history is heavy. And in that moment, Snoop has a choice. Revenge or release. Pride or survival. He understands something that took him years to learn. His pride could get him killed. His anger could destroy everything he fought to protect. And so he does something unexpected. He forgives. Not because the past is erased. Not because the pain disappears. But because carrying it any longer would cost him his future. That moment changes everything. Snoop walks away alive. He walks away focused. He walks away determined to live. To create. To raise his children in a world far from the chaos that nearly consumed him. Tupac's story ends in tragedy, but Snoop's does not. And that contrast is the most powerful lesson of all. This is not about blaming one person or rewriting history. It is about understanding how influence, ego, and unchecked power can destroy even the brightest stars. Tupac burned fast and bright. Snoop learned to slow down and survive. And the reason this story still matters is because the same forces exist today. Fame, pressure, loyalty, image. The choice between feeding the fire or stepping away from it. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Tupac could have survived if things had gone differently? Do you believe the people closest to him failed him? Or do you think his destiny was already written? Go to the comments and say what you really think. Read what others are saying. Reply to at least one comment. And keep the discussion alive. That is how hype builds. That is how stories like this stay visible. If you want more deep dives like this, make sure you are subscribed and notifications are on. Because this is not the last uncomfortable truth we're going to talk about. And remember, legends do not just die. They leave questions behind.